Good evening and welcome to the Red Wing League of Women Voters Meet Your 2022 Candidates. My name is Tina Langton and I am a member of the Executive Committee of the Red Wing League of Women Voters. Thank you for coming. We'd like to give a special thanks to the candidates for being here and to our co-sponsors, the Red Wing Area Chamber of Commerce, Pier 55 Red Wing Area Seniors, Citizen Climate Lobby, Resilient Red Wing, American Association of University Women, and the Prairie Island Indian Community for helping us bring you this event. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening's forums, Lisa Bailey.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you to everyone for coming, and welcome again on behalf of League of Women Voters to the Meet Your Candidates 2022. It's a great honor to be with you here tonight. I'm going to introduce them by name, and I'm going to ask you to join me in welcoming them with a round of applause after I've finished all of their names. Terese Bjornstad, Jim Bryant, Heather Rudawski, Rachel Marshall Schoenfelder, Holly Tower, Kristen Titus, and Benjamin Winter. Please join me in welcoming and thanking them. Now for a few ground rules. Questions for the candidates were collected online by email and mail and then reviewed by an experienced League of Women Voters team. We received many more questions than could possibly be answered, so we made a strong effort to select questions that represented the most asked about topics. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement and 60 seconds to respond to each question I ask. I will be going in a random order as to who will be selected to start the round of questioning. Candidates will also have 90 seconds for a closing statement. Time is being kept by Randy Decker. A few other comments. You'll notice I'm not going to be using any titles tonight in order to avoid any bias towards incumbent candidates or other candidates. I've gone over the format with each of the candidates, and I've asked and received their permission to use their first names. For your information, all candidates were asked before tonight's event to tell their supporters to refrain from wearing campaign paraphernalia or waving signs within the nonpartisan area at the front of the stage. I would also like to ask the observers to be respectful of all the candidates and other observers and keep a civil and respectful tone tonight. In case of an inappropriate partisan or other disruption, there will be one warning. A second disruption could lead to a pause in the proceedings. Please do not applaud, speak, shout, or make other audible responses while candidates are speaking or at any time during the forum. Any time that is spent in applause or other noise shortens the amount of time the candidates have to present you, the voters, with the information you need to make your choices. You will be invited to applaud at the end of the candidate closing statements. We have asked candidates to refrain from anything that may be considered a personal statement about another candidate. We expect candidates to speak truthfully. We reserve the right to allow candidate or league member to respond if these guidelines are not followed. All right, I said you couldn't applaud, but let's give them one more round of applause before we get going here. We will start with our opening statements. And we are going to start, I'm going to announce, I'll do 3 at a time of who's going to go first. So we're going to start with Terese, followed by Ben, and then Heather.
Hi, my name is Terese Bjornstad, or Mrs. B as I was known to my students, while I had the privilege of serving our children as a public school teacher for 32 years. This fall, something really exciting happened in my family. My granddaughter Lennon started kindergarten. Lennon has been waiting, in her words, my whole life to be a kindergarten child. She will be the 4th generation of Bjornstads to get a top-notch education in the Red Wing public school system. Watching her excitement and joy this summer made me realize that it was time for me to come out of retirement and once again serve the families of our community, this time in the role of school board member. I have 32 years of experience working collaboratively with children, parents, colleagues, and board members. I promise you that I will be a high-performing board member by listening to the community, doing my homework, and understanding that my job as a school board member is not to run schools. We have talented staff to do that. My job as a school board member is to make sure that our schools are well run. So vote for Mrs. B on November 8th. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Winter. I'm 32, I'm a nurse here in town, proud parent of some children you can actually see right up there running around, and a husband to an absolutely gorgeous wife, also staring at me up there. One thing that I learned throughout my entire life was a love of learning, that you should always push yourself. Always promote yourself, always strive to be better, to learn more, to advance yourself. And that's something that I learned in the public education system. That's something that passionate teachers have taught me. And something that I would like to be a part of myself, to help out, to be able to find ways that we can ignite children, that we can spark the interest and passions that were sparked for me just 14 years ago. I don't have nearly as much experience as some people behind me on stage, but I do have a willingness to learn. I do have a spirit that drives to find the answers, not based off of what we've done in the past or based off of what we think is right, but based off of the empirical evidence that's laid before us. And if it's not, reaching out to find that evidence. If you vote for me, I can promise you that you'll have someone on school board that's going to fight for the teachers, fight for the parents, but most importantly, fight for the students. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Ooh, sorry. I'm Heather Rudawski. I am a proud mother of two. I have been married for 20 years, and I am a product of the Red Wing school system. The reason why I'm running is because I want your kids to know that we are pouring into them. And I know what the community is capable of, and I know and I look forward to representing you guys all. As a parent and as a former student. I want to bring the community back into the schools. I feel like it's a huge missing piece, especially given the circumstances of the last couple of years, and I feel that that's a missing connection. And as well as the parents. I want the parents to trust the school system that they're sending their kids to. So that is why I'm running. Thank you guys for your vote.
Next up, we're going to have Rachel, Holly, Kristen, and Jim.
Hi, my name is Rachel Marshall Schoenfelder. I was born and raised here in Red Wing. I went to school in the Red Wing School District. I have 4 children, 3 of which who are still in the district, and 1 who has since graduated. I'm a healthcare professional, and I've been employed as a physician assistant in pediatrics locally here for the past 23 years. I've always enjoyed being active in the community in many different organizations and leadership roles. And so I've looked forward to running for school board for a while. Why did I run? Why did I choose to run? My parents went to school here. I went to school here. My kids go to school here. I have a personal interest to give back to the Red Wing community and help set a vision for our public schools. I want our kids in Red Wing to succeed. In our district, we have a lot going on right now. We are facing declining enrollment. We're losing teachers. We need to pass a referendum. We're choosing a new superintendent, and we need to promote children's wellness after years of COVID repercussions. My focus will be on decisions that have a positive impact on students, staff, and facilities while representing you in the community. Issues really important to me are common sense issues, such as ensuring a safe and healthy learning environment, fiscal responsibility, improving academic achievement, and creating a welcoming, inclusive environment that attracts and retains students, staff, and teachers. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Holly Tower, and I am running for school board in the year 2022. And if you would have asked me when I graduated from Red Wing in 1991, Holly, would you run for school board? I would have said at that time, absolutely not. Absolutely not. As a approaching 50-year-old this year, I have learned a lot about public education. I've been a public educator for 27 years. I've spent those 27 years in special education. I've worked with children in grades kindergarten through adult. All children and adults with disabilities. And as I reflect on why I'm running for school board, I think about the minimum wage. And if you are an adult with a disability, you are not entitled to a minimum wage. And when I think about our programming in Red Wing Public Schools, and I think about our children and our families, and I think, how do we help motivate, encourage, support people, children, so that they can speak their truth and advocate for themselves? I see that as my job on the school board, to be the voice, to encourage others to find their voice. So I want to thank you tonight for coming out. I'm extremely humbled. I have been around this park since 1975, and in 1991, I would go back and tell myself, you should really run for school board.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Titus. You know, a year ago, I would have never seen myself standing up here running for school board, but I am also a lifelong learner. Nothing is more important than education. I have 2 children that go to high school here. They've been through the entire system of Red Wing. I have a stepson who was in the school system here, but he decided to go to Duluth. So in a nutshell, the reason why one of my biggest priority for this, running for this position, is safety. I work at the correctional facility. I've been there for over 27 years. I also am a part-time bus driver, so I drive the children to and from school. And nothing is more important than safety. In working with youth for over 27 years, what I find is that if they're not feeling safe, physically, emotionally, feeling safe in an environment, psychologically, they're not going to learn. They're going to shut down, and they're not going to get the information that we need to give them. I believe that we're all here for the same thing. We are all here for the education of our children. We care about them. We want them to become socially responsible adults and proactive citizens. So what I'm going to tell you is that if you vote for me, I promise to do my research, to get back to you, have an open door policy, and I want to work collaboratively to make the best decisions for this community and for our children so that they can give back to our society.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Red Wing League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Also want to thank all the candidates that have filed for school board, and a big thank you to everyone that's coming out tonight for the question and answer session. My name is Jim Bryant, and I'm married to my beautiful wife Connie Bryant in the back there for over 40 years. We have 2 children, Danielle and Lucas. All 4 of us graduated from Red Wing Public Schools, as did many of our family members who has graduated from Red Wing. Connie and I have lived in the area our entire life. I'm in my first term as school board member and currently the treasurer. I'm a retired Red Wing police sergeant, a Goodyear County commissioner, and I just recently retired from running a multi-million-dollar business. I ran to give back to the school that I graduated from and got my foundation. My K through 12 education gave me the foundation as to where I am today. I attended 5 different schools in Red Wing from K through 12, and we never moved. It was a great experience and what I call the first step in my life journey. My parents, teachers, schools, and family were there to help me get ready for the next chapters of my life. I want our children to be as ready as possible for their next journey, wherever it will take them.
There we go. Thank you. Candidates who are unable to attend have been given the opportunity to submit an opening statement to be read by a league member. Tina Langton will now read the statement from Kayla Anderson.
Hi, I'm Kayla Anderson, and I'm beyond excited to be running for a seat on the Red Wing School Board. We need leaders guiding our district to create the absolute best future for every student. We need visionaries who can see the big picture, who trust teachers to do their jobs, and help prepare young people to achieve everything they're capable of. I believe we do that through sound fiscal policies, strong foundational academics, and a solid relationship by listening to our community to provide extra support for students, teachers, and families. I hope to bring those qualities to the board. My husband and I were both raised in Red Wing and are Red Wing graduates. We have been married for 14 years and have 3 children. I studied psychology and business at the University of Minnesota Duluth and at Mesa State College, Colorado. After living in Colorado and Texas for many years, we moved back to Red Wing December 2021. With young children of my own, I often reflect on my K-12 education. Those years were some of the most influential years of my life, particularly because of the people that were involved. Teachers, parents, coaches, businesses, and neighbors working together to make educational experience meaningful, valuable, and successful for everyone. I still run into former teachers that know me by name 20 plus years later. That's the beauty of living in a small town, the teachers that gave me a hug when needed or guided me when I was capable of more. I am passionate about helping others, and I believe I can bring a new perspective to a town that I love and respect. Our experiences with other school communities have provided insight into how different school systems function and deal with hot topics such as equitable education, diversity, and safety measures in the schools. After experiencing other school districts, it is no surprise to me that Minnesota public education continues to maintain its top-tier rankings for so many years. Our district has several well-educated teachers that are in need of community support if we want to retain them for years to come. There's an old proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and this could not be more accurate. It takes an active role of teachers, parents, and the community who want their children to excel by taking initiative and being involved. The people of Red Wing are looking for a change, which is what I plan on accomplishing. Let's renew the referendum and take action together in our schools instead of just talking about it. Let's increase accountability and safety by doing what is best for all of our children and their future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 1. I'm going to read the question and then I'll read out the first 3 people, and then I'll do that again at the end of those. One of the critical jobs of a school board member is to interview and hire the superintendent of schools. What is the top quality you would look for in a person applying for the superintendent's position? We're going to start with Holly, then Ben, and Rachel.
Somehow I thought I'd go first. I don't know how. When we conducted the interviews a couple months ago for an interim superintendent, we had candidates submit their resumes, and we came together as a board and we discussed things that we needed to lead Red Wing schools. And we narrowed down the candidates to 3 choices. We interviewed those 3 candidates, and the one thing that kept sticking out for me personally was experience, education, and compassion. And when I look for somebody to lead our schools or think about somebody leading our schools, I think back of the leaders that I had in Red Wing, and the candidate that we hired as the interim had those qualities. And so when we go to look at possibly or in some way doing this again, we're doing a workshop around how to hire, those are the things I'll be looking for.
In terms of top quality I'd be looking for in a superintendent, I believe I would look for motivation and passion to find new ways of doing things, to not come in with the status quo, not say that experience in the past dictates what they're going to do in the future, but to be willing to say they want to find how the context of our school specifically can match what their curriculum is, what their priorities are. So if I was looking at a superintendent, I'd be looking at one that'd be willing to think outside the box, to think critically, not to go based off of a playbook that they've used a dozen times before in a dozen different districts, but to find one that works for us. Thank you.
I think it would be important to me to find a superintendent who could provide innovative leadership and someone who can collaborate with all of the staff in the district.
Next, we'll have Terese, Jim, Heather, and Kristen. Terese, Jim, Heather, Kristen.
The superintendent is the person who is the keeper of the vision and forward promoter of the mission of our school district. So I would be looking for someone, yes, that has the experience and education to do the job, but also someone who has a passion for public education and a passion for our community and the ability to listen, collaborate, and make decisions that serve the greatest good of our community.
Interesting question, since we're going through a superintendent change here this year. I want a strong leader, somebody that can bring people together in the district. We have a wonderful, we call it management team or admin team right now, principals, directors that get together and work together well. I'm looking for somebody that shows leadership through delegation. One person shouldn't be at the top doing everything. Need good people underneath them. Somebody that can get along and talk with the community, get out there, be vocal, or at least be seen, be involved, and be part of that and meeting people. And one of the other things, as we all need, is the financial part. Everything runs on the dollar. You have to have enough dollars to make everything work. And I think having a strong leader will show that in our next superintendent, whether it be our current interim or somebody else. But we're doing well right now. Thank you.
When I think of a superintendent, I do think of leadership. How do you just wrap one thing into a superintendent, though? I think they do need to have strong leadership, need to have collaboration. I mean, there's so many things that they bring to the table that steers the teaching staff, the kids. So yeah, they're gonna have the vision, but yeah, leadership is a huge thing that I feel a superintendent would need.
I think the most important quality would be an ethical person. I think an ethical person is going to bring in integrity, but there's a lot of adversity and challenges in leadership, and if a person's ethical, they're more than likely going to make the most correct decision.
Thank you. Question number 2. Give one personal example of your advocacy or experience with equity, diversity, and inclusion that you would bring to your decision making. This may include understanding of students' special needs, gifted or talented, LGBTQ+ population, ESL, racial, ethnic, cultural backgrounds, etc. I can read that again. Give one personal example of your advocacy or experience with equity, diversity, and inclusion that you would bring to your decision making. This may include understanding of students' special needs, gifted or talented, LGBTQ plus population, ESL, racial or ethnic or cultural backgrounds, etc. Oh, I'm sorry. And we are going to start with Ben, Jim, and Kristen.
I guess the biggest thing for me in advocacy for that would be special needs. I have a son with autism. It can be difficult at times. He's high functioning, but it's something where what works for generally 90% of children doesn't work for him. It requires patience. It requires an understanding that the inner workings of his thought process doesn't necessarily transfer over, to something that we can understand. So my personal experience with that is what kind of allows me to understand that not everything is a cookie cutter approach. When we're advocating for people, we're advocating whether it be based off of special needs, race, sex, gender, anything like that. We can't just take a cookie cutter approach. We have to be able to understand the other side of things and empathize with them.
Red Wing School District has more people in special ed than I even thought until I got on the school board. We have an enormous amount of people that our staff deal with on a regular basis. Personally, back when my son was in high school, or before he was in high school, a young man from another race and him got to be very good friends. He was over at our house. He went with us on trips. I coached him in sports, and nobody ever looked at him differently. He was a wonderful young man who enjoyed being around us. We enjoyed being around him. And we didn't measure that person any different than we would anybody else. So I believe in treating people the way you get treated. And this case, and this young man was a wonderful young man. We still stay in touch with him as he lives in the Red Wing area.
Well, in working with the Department of Corrections here at the facility with these youth, I see diversity every single day. Kids from all over the state, from Hennepin County, Ramsey County, St. Louis County, different socioeconomical statuses, and they're challenging, but each kid has a voice, and you just do the best you can to find the things that they need and find what's going to get into their perspective so that you can help move them forward. There's a lot of diversity out there with the kids that I work with. And even driving the bus, there's a lot of diversity there as well. For 2 years I was working with the high school kids, and this year I'm working with the elementary kids, and there's a lot of different perspectives and personalities, and it's important that each one is listened to.
Next we'll have Holly, Rachel, Heather, and Terese.
In the policy book for Red Wing Public Schools, Policy 1000 is our equity policy. And when I was on the policy committee early on in my career on the school board, I had no idea that the books were this big with policies from the state, from Minnesota School Board Association. We review those policies every few years. You put reviewed when and who reviewed it. Our policy in Red Wing hadn't been reviewed in 10 years. So the last time the equity policy had been reviewed was in 2010 until 2020. That hurt me because that is the basis of public education, equity, and treating every individual like they are just as important as your own child, as your sibling, as your family. So now I can guarantee Equity Policy 1000 is going to be and has been at the forefront. That's the work.
I deal with diversity every single day that I work in clinic. I take care of kids from all different backgrounds, and I think it's really important to just try to understand each child and the diversity that they bring to the community, to the school district. Every student is different, and embracing diversity is really important because studies show that diversity is really helpful to students in a classroom and help them learn better when they're sitting by students who aren't the same by them, who learn in different ways from them, who don't look like them or act like them. I think it's a very important thing that our school addresses.
I had the honor and privilege of working for the Hope Coalition for 7 years. So I advocated for women, men, children, the LGBT community for 7 years as a job. I can tell you that any victim out there, every single situation is different, and you walk them through the situation. You help them, guide them, you learn a lot, but mainly you listen. And it was a privilege, so yes.
I have a brother with dyslexia, so my minor at Winona State University was specific learning disabilities. I taught regular ed for my entire career, but during that teaching time, I was a tireless advocate for my students who learned differently than others. So that's something specifically I've done. But also, in the last 2 years, I've made an effort, a strong effort, to read. I participated in the 21-day diversity challenge in February, but I've been reading widely about issues that affect the Black community, our Latinx community, the LGBTQ community, and our relatives here in Red Wing from the Dakota community. So you have to learn in order to understand, and in order to learn, you also need to listen. So I also bring the ability to listen to those groups of people and try and understand their lived experience.
Thank you. Question number 3. There is concern that teachers are leaving the profession at an alarming rate. What can the Red Wing School District do to attract and keep qualified, caring educators? We're going to start with Heather, Kristen, and then Ben.
I would conduct exit interviews. I don't know if this has happened from teachers that I've asked. As a board member, I would offer to do an exit interview for a teacher to get down to why a teacher is leaving. Teacher retention is huge. We want the kids to feel loved. We want the teachers to feel loved. And so I feel like an exit interview would be able to hopefully answer questions.
Yeah, retention is very important. I think, I agree, exit interviews would be a very good step, but I think also talking to the current teachers and finding out their perspective on why there's issues, finding what they think might help. I mean, they're the experts. They should know better than anybody at this point. I think that asking them, doing some research, funding is important. Maybe looking around other communities to find out what they're doing differently, if their retention is the same, better, worse, and just gathering the information, making the best possible choice from that point.
I think the biggest thing is communication with them. Communicate with the teachers. Talk to them. Find out what they have issues with, what their biggest pitfalls are in that classroom. Is it resources and supplies? How can we provide those to them? How can we promote an environment where they can focus solely on teaching what they're passionate about? I think that teacher retention is incredibly important, not just because we don't want to lose teachers, but we want teachers that can be there for children for years so that they can build those bonds, so that we can have a connection with the school on that level with the teachers. And we don't just rotate through them hoping that the next one will stay for a couple more years. So for me, the biggest thing, like they had said, is communicate, but then take action on those problems that they bring forth.
Next, we'll hear from Jim, Terese, Holly, and Rachel.
Retention is something that I think every employer is looking at, any field where you're at. There's a worker shortage all across Minnesota and the states. Our building leaders are the ones that regularly discuss and talk to our teachers, listening to them, making it a fun place to be, a place that they want to be here in Red Wing. Come on down here. We're between Rochester and Minneapolis, St. Paul. We have a lot to offer here. And but like listening, our admin team is looking at exploring some options on on other ideas on how to bring in and retain teachers, especially the younger ones. And they're working that, and we'll, I think as a school board, hear that down the road as to some options and some ideas that they're kicking around as we go forward to attracting new teachers, new paras, new staff. You know, we have about, if I remember right, 400 people that work for the district. 170 some of them are teachers. So we have a big staffing thing that we have to always be on top of and listen to and take care of things as they go forward and make this a fun place for them and a place they want to come and work.
I second what Ben said. We need to listen to our teachers. They are tired. And the pandemic with distance learning has basically put them on TV all day, every day. And it's hard. They would not choose to deliver curriculum in that way, but that's the hand we were dealt. And so I believe as a school board, it is our job to be cheerleaders and supporters for our teachers, for our students, and our system. Because I will tell you, when I was a teacher, if I knew that my parents believed in me, and my principal believed in me, and the school board believed in me, I could do anything. I can guarantee that when teachers walk into a building at the beginning of the day, they're not thinking about just hanging out and getting through the day. They're in there to help kids and do the best they can.
In 27 years of teaching, I've probably had more than a dozen principals I've worked with. I've worked under superintendents, and now as a member of the school board, I work with a superintendent to try to make sure that teachers are listened to. When I walk into my own personal classroom every day, I know that the principal in my building is doing everything they can to make sure that I can do my job so that my students can thrive. Retaining teachers seems like a very difficult thing, but if you ask us repeatedly what it is we need patience, we need support, we need dynamite, strong leadership, we need resources, and we need to be able to meet the needs of our children in our classroom. And when we ask for help, we want help.
I think teacher retention is very, very important. I think it starts by just recognizing that our teachers need to have support. They're the backbone of our school district. And I don't know the specifics of what teacher retention looks like, but I do know that it means we should have a welcoming and supportive environment for them that's inclusive and encourages teachers to stay in our district, but also attracts new teachers to our district.
Thank you. Question number 4. As a school board member, how would you respond to parents' concerns about what is being taught in the classrooms? We'll start with Jim, then Heather, and Kristen.
Well, the school board has a responsibility of overseeing the superintendent. And anything that comes forward for Curriculum, we have a director of teaching and learning too. We have principals in each of our schools who are, as been said, support our teachers, give everything they can, strong leadership. So we have some tremendous principals in our schools right now. That's where they should be addressing it with the principals, the director of learning, and the superintendent. If we get a request like that, our job is to forward that to the people that manage the operation on a daily basis. Our job is to set policy, have the superintendent bring things to us, and along with that, bring solutions. And so anything that comes forward to a school board member should be directed to our principals or to our superintendent, director of teaching and learning. Thank you.
Communication. I would communicate with the parent that I'm gonna reach out to whoever needs to address the question, and then go from there and follow up with the person that needs to help and assist with addressing the question.
With those type of concerns, I would filter those back to the experts, the principals, superintendents. But I would definitely want to get back with the parent and find out any information and support the principal and the superintendent on their direction.
Next, we'll have Holly, Terese, Ben, and Rachel.
I've had parents reach out to me concerned about what's being taught in the classroom. First and foremost, I am a parent, and there have been times I've been concerned about what's being taught in the classroom. The first call is to the teacher. Did my child come home and tell me correctly that this was being taught in the classroom, or how can I understand differently or better what's being reported to me? Give the teacher an opportunity to explain. If that's not suffice, then, ask the principal. But the school board, like Jim had said, our job is to communicate with the superintendent so that the superintendent is aware that there are concerns in the community and that those concerns need to be addressed. We are a melting pot of ideas and people. We have all kinds of things that we want to learn, and we are told sometimes what we have to teach, but we also want the license to teach.
Well, first, I would like to say that our school district is very transparent about what we're teaching. You can go to our district website, redwingpublicschools.org, scroll down to the search bar, type in curriculum, and you will find the curriculum guides broken down by grade levels for birth through graduation. So I think that communication is so important. I think that, again, I know that it is not our job as a school board to decide the curriculum. That's determined by the state standards. And if a parent was concerned about specifically what was going on, like Holly, I would ask them to talk to the teacher and find out what happened. But most of all, I would encourage all parents to look at that district website and find out what the curriculum is. Because I know teachers are sending home newsletters and they're posting assignments and what they're doing on their websites.
Help them find the answer. It's the easiest thing here. If they come to me asking why something's being taught, be a bit of an advocate, point them in the right direction. If it is something that we could figure out on the teacher level, let's have them talk to the teacher. I can certainly be an advocate, help them out, maybe be a second mouthpiece for them. But a lot of times issues like that comes down to just communication. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's something where the student heard something wrong, or there was just a cross in the wires. But as a school board, one of the biggest things that we can do is just help advocate. We don't need to take any major steps. We don't need to go out and start a big investigation. Just saying, hey, Let's, here's the number. Let's talk to this person, and we'll see if we can get the answer for you.
I really agree with what has already been said up here, that communication is key, and as a school board member, we would not be likely the appropriate person to address a particular concern that in fact should probably go up the chain from the teacher to the administrator to the superintendent. And yet at the same time, I think it's important that we are advocates for concerns from parents and to at least be aware of any of the concerns that are present.
Thank you. Question number 5. Every time a tragic school shooting occurs in our country, there are calls for increased safety measures in school. What actions would you support be taken by the school board to increase safety in our schools? We'll start with Kristen, Holly, and Terese.
I think a current review of our safety measures would be the first step I would take. Find out what is already existing, find out if there's any potential threats to our area. And I think that maybe talk collaboratively with teachers, parents, superintendents, school board members, and find out if there is indeed a threat in our area. But I really do believe that we need to look at what we already have and go from there. We need to maybe calm some fears, and maybe that's the time when we really need to open up communication and panels.
One of the first things that the interim superintendent, Mr. Norton, was tasked with doing was getting a baseline of where we are at in Red Wing Public Schools with our safety and security. Mr. Norton got the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's department to come to the board in a closed session to discuss what has been done, what needs to be done, what changes we need to make, how do we all get on the same page. So what we accomplished in the month of July was fantastic. What I didn't understand was that I assumed, oh, the schools are safe. That was my first mistake. And as a parent, as a community member, please ask. Please ask us, what's going on? How do we know our children are safe? Because when you ask the questions and we ask the questions, we get the right answer. And there's a thing known as best practice. And in the police department and in security and all of those places, best practice is what we strive for.
I agree with Holly that we need to be aware of best practices for school safety. I also believe there's another prong with school safety, and that is addressing student mental health. So if we help students and are aware of student mental health issues and provide safe spaces for kids to communicate with trusted adults, I think that will go a long way to improve our school safety, because school shootings are not the only thing that make kids feel unsafe in schools.
Next, we'll hear from Jim, Rachel, Ben, and Heather.
Well, I could talk for about an hour on this topic, I'll tell you. This is my number one issue, our safe schools. As Holly said, we had a closed session with our area responders, building leaders, and talking about our buildings, if they're safe, for our students and staff. We've made some changes since I've been on the board at Twin Bluff, at the high school, and at Sunnyside, how to get into those buildings. Our leaders in the buildings are working with Mr. Norton on a plan, and we're working on it constantly to look at how we can make our buildings and things in our school as safe as possible for our children. So I could go on for quite a while, but it's a big thing. It's my number one issue that I want to make sure our buildings are safe for everybody that comes into it. Thank you.
I think safety is a #1 priority for our schools at all times. We should always be thinking about it. We should have policies that are reviewed and require regular safety drills. We should assess campus security, and we should always make sure that our schools are secure before school, during school, and after school. I think we should encourage also students and staff really to just speak up, because they're the ones who really are in the know and see what's going on. So if something's concerning, or if there's any suspicious behaviors, or just something doesn't feel right, that they speak up. More importantly though, I think it comes down to just creating a school culture where every student just feels really connected to their peers, like they have adults in the school that care about them, and that they just have value in their community.
All right. When it comes to school safety, reactive measures are definitely necessary. We need to keep the buildings safe. We need to have things in place in the event of an unforeseeable tragedy. But we need to be proactive first. We need to be proactive in the sense that we need to find ways that we can see the first signs of issue within the students. We can see the first signs of issues of mental health. We can be able to address those, and we can find ways to resolve them. Like Terese had said about safe spaces, we need a place where a child that may feel secluded, may feel like they don't have anywhere to turn to, and they're letting maybe a mental illness, or they're letting a feeling build up to the point that something tragic may happen. We need to find a way that we can dissolve that issue, that we can bring them back into being a productive student, one that feels included. That would be the biggest thing for me, and being reactive is definitely necessary, but being proactive is something that we need to put just as much, if not more, focus on.
So I would say communication for safety. I also, when I served for Hope Coalition, I had many kids that weren't allowed to be by one parent or one parent, so communication with staff was huge, because there was order for protections out there that a child couldn't be picked up by a parent. So communicating with their teachers, their staff. If you see signs, being able to trust with the parents, being able to trust the teacher, like, hey, this is what's going on with my kid. As a parent, trusting that teacher, knowing, you know, I'm seeing signs of maybe a mental health issue. Can you let me know? Having that open communication. Another thing, like I said, was safety, and I love that they had a closed meeting. Law enforcement, fire, you know, being involved in open communication with our police department. They see what's going on in the community. As much as we love to say Pretty Red Wing is Pretty Red Wing, there are a lot of sad things that happen, and we need our eyes to be open for it. So communication and getting those involved that need to be involved.
Thank you. How can the Red Wing School Board best support the social, emotional, and mental health needs of all students? We're going to start with Terese, Holly, and then Heather.
It's important that we educate ourselves about the diverse communities of people that live in Red Wing. If we understand each other, we'll be able to support each other. I think that having a strong social emotional learning program that's district-wide, where we are using common language to help guide kids, because kids learn from us. So we need to be respectful to each other as a school board and model that listening and caring. And then we need to support staff in putting programs in place for students so that they can learn how to deal with their anger, communicate effectively, and resolve conflict respectfully.
Social emotional health of the staff in the building are paramount to students feeling safe and healthy. And when the staff is healthy and they're communicating and they trust their leaders and they trust their school board, they can go into their classroom and build those spaces in their classroom and in the hallways that promote inclusivity. Everybody here matters. Everybody here is part of something bigger than themselves, but when you're at your best, this is the best. There's social emotional curriculums, there's social emotional, all kinds of things out there. It's not about finding the right curriculum, it's about making sure that the school board is supporting the superintendent, who's supporting the teachers, who's supporting the social workers and the psychologists and the nurses and the custodians and the cafeteria staff. We're one mini big community inside a school building. It's like a little Red Wing in there. And that's how we treat each other is so important to what our students come home every day and say.
I would second what Holly said. I mean, social, emotional health of teachers is very important. Also educating them on mental health, giving them the proper training tools, at all levels, admin, staff, teaching them, training them ways to help kids, help themselves. If they're suffering through, there's lots of mental health since COVID. So just giving them the proper training and tools to help them and help the students.
Next, we'll hear from Jim, Kristen, Rachel, and Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can third Holly, I'll do that. Communication, having a strong leader at the top, down through the school, the principals and teachers, that they be appreciated, they want to be here, and let's not forget, every child matters. So if we can do whatever resources and help each and every child that we can, we'll succeed. Will we get them all? I hope so, but we don't know that. But so communication, training with our staff, working with our business principals, through our superintendent, working with the teachers, the paras, to get the needs of all our children, what they need to have a successful life during school, after school, and beyond.
So I think that we need to make social and emotional well-being the top priority as the work culture. As others have said, it starts from the top down, but as things come up, we should also have intervention programs, we should have training, anything that's going to make the leaders in the school, the teachers in the school, be the role models for the children, because they do look up to the teachers and the adults in the school and role model that. I think we could also maybe look into creating some different programs for the kids, different mentoring programs or other ways for them to be able to discuss some of the issues that they have on a peer-related level.
Social and emotional health is really critical right now for students and staff. And I think it's really important to, again, cultivate that environment where students and staff really feel comfortable reaching out to their peers, reaching out to adults in the building, reaching out to their administrators, reaching out even to board members if they really needed to. But having support in place, training for some of our staff, and resources for our staff and students, and then directing them to the appropriate resources that would be beneficial.
Social and emotional health are incredibly important. They're important probably now more than ever. A lot of our teachers are burnt out. A lot of our students are having a tough time reacclimating to a traditional school environment. It's something that we have to focus on so that these teachers are getting the I don't want to say instruction, but they're getting the help they need. They're getting the resources they need to be able to handle that, to be able to acclimate back into something that they either knew 2 years ago, or maybe they're a new teacher and they're just trying to get back into get into this now. Social and emotional health is just incredibly important, and it's something that needs to be supported so that everyone within the school district and within each school here can be connected and support each other.
Thank you. Question 7. Do you support comprehensive sex education, including LGBTQ specific health information in public schools K through 12? Why or why not? We'll start with Holly, then Ben, and then Rachel.
I get a smile on my face. Mrs. Broughton, who had just turned to Mrs. Holland, was my health teacher in 10th grade. And the questions that we asked her about life and about sex education, she knew all the answers. And if she didn't know the answer, she helped you come to an answer that you could feel comfortable with. My son at Twin Bluff, which was the middle school at the time, came home and told me some of the things that he was learning in his health class around sex education. I was shocked. I didn't know those things were being taught in the specificity that they were being taught. And I supported him, and I supported that curriculum. Because they are having the conversations, whether or not it is being taught at home or it's being taught with a public curriculum. The kids are having the conversations, and the more they know about themselves and how they can react to the world, the healthier they're going to be. I absolutely support sex education in the public schools. Very inclusive.
Yes, I do, emphatically. It is something that it's direly important. Children are going to wonder about it. We need to give them a strong support, a support based off of evidence, support and in teachings that they can take and know what is right. Because if they don't, children have a fantastic way of trying to find out things themselves. And we live in a day and age where that information is out there. And that information isn't always correct. So if we have a strong curriculum around sex education that's in the school, something that is transparent, that every teacher can see, or every parent can see, that we can all understand the same things together and know what the child is learning, and I think that's for the betterment of the child. Because like I said, I mean, I got a 10-year-old and she's on the internet a lot. And she sees she gets pretty curious sometimes. And I would hope that she would learn that from public schools rather than from the internet.
I think this is a very difficult topic to really discuss sometimes because there's a lot of different feelings about this. I think sex education is very important in the school district. I think there are many things at play, and one is age and how old kids are when they're learning different things. I think that's important. I don't know exactly what is meant by comprehensive sex education, but I certainly think it should be transparent to parents, especially depending on the age of a child, and so that there can be a discussion at home, if wanted, before kids are getting all of their education from the school district.
Now we'll hear from Terese, Jim, Heather, and Kristen.
I'm super pumped that I got asked this question because I think there's a lot of, just like Ben said, kids are going on the internet and gathering misinformation. Parents are going out on the internet and gathering misinformation. What comprehensive sex education curriculum means is teaching kids developmentally appropriate information at the appropriate time. For example, I just happened to read an article about this on the internet from a reliable source yesterday. So, for example, in kindergarten, comprehensive sex education is an activity where
You give a kid a hula hoop, and they stand in their hula hoop, and that is their bubble. And they learn how to tell people to stay out of their bubble. They learn about adults that they can talk to if someone tries to come in their bubble. That they have body autonomy. They can say, no, do not touch me, and it's okay. So it's important.
Yes, I think it's a good place for students to learn it in school. There's so many things on the internet you can look at, and we have children that are 8 or 9 or even younger, I don't know for sure. They've got phones, internet access, so teaching them properly in school, all our children. Just the other day I got contact with somebody's got a transgender student in one of our schools. Had some questions about it. Forwarded on to Mr. Norton and Director of Teaching and Learning. So we have them around us. There's somebody's child, there's somebody's brother, there's somebody's sister, somebody's cousin, could be somebody's mother, uncle, all that. So all our students should learn whatever that is on the sex education that we're being asked here tonight in this question, and yes, I do support it.
So I agree, but at the same time, I want to share. So I grew up in here. I took an alternative sex education class in middle school. In high school, I did take health class, and I actually was given the opportunity through the health teacher, Mrs. Hanson, to go and speak about abstinence in classes openly. So, I mean, I think it's, what Mrs. B said, she was my teacher, is right. Like, teaching a kid, you're not always going to get the education that a kid might not have the opportunity to share. I'm very open with my kids, and they're getting the education that they need based upon, like, teaching them the bubble. So yes, I mean, I think it's important, but I also think you need to be transparent and let kids know, or let the parents know whether or not they want to elect or not elect to do it.
Yeah, I think within reason and definitely age-appropriate sex education, a comprehensive program is appropriate, but I think it's also imperative to have communication with the parents because the school is an extension of the home. And I think that the parents, if they have concerns, they need to be addressed. I think that kids are going to be curious. They are going to look at the internet, talk to their friends, learn a lot of weird stuff on the bus. I mean, that stuff's going to happen. But I think communication needs to happen, and it definitely needs to be age appropriate.
Thank you. We're getting near the end, everybody. I've got 2 more questions, and then we'll do our closing remarks. What role do the fine arts and technical arts play in the education of our students? Is it important to educate for the whole child or focus more on academics and basic skills? I'll read that one more time. What role do the fine arts and technical arts play in the education of our students? Is it important to educate for the whole child or focus more on academics and basic skills? And we're going to start with Ben, then Jim, and then Kristen.
I went to school when I was 18 to be an art director. It was a huge thing for me. I wanted to do art. I wanted to do art that made me money. I didn't want to be a starving artist, so I picked advertising. But art was something that ignited my passion for a lot of other things. Art's something that can ignite the creativity of a child. It can transcend into every other aspect of their academic life. When they look at math, they might not just see numbers. They might not just see the plain characters on a page. They might see critically what those numbers can do. Maybe they become something that he can do as an engineer, or something that she can do working for NASA. Art isn't about creating things on a piece of paper. It's about thinking critically. It's about being creative, and it's about thinking outside the box. I think every child needs that. So we need to teach it as a whole, not just focus on what we think are the basics for a child's learning.
Yes, I believe it's important. I've been told I wave my hands too much, so I'm keeping my pockets this time. So I think it's important. We just had a student that had art, wanted to be into art. What tremendous art. Person that could do art. She got into the shop class and found out that the art part that she was doing was more focused. She did start doing some engineering on some of the new equipment we have in the shop at the high school. She's also focused from the art, my hands back in my pocket, and she focused on that and became a very nice, very interested in engineering. So yeah, I think every student should have the opportunity to have some art or whatever classes type on that to see if that is their passion. And who knows? In this case, maybe another one just steers that person down another road. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have a well-rounded program. I think kids need to be involved in as much as they possibly can. I do think math, science, reading, etc. are extremely important, but every kid learns differently, and sometimes if you can find a way to tie it all together, that would be awesome. I have a master's in experiential education. We try to, at our facility, we try to use many different ways to teach the same lesson from a variety of different ways. A lot of times coming in from the back door is exactly what the kid needs, whether it's, through a game, sports, music, theater, etc. I think that is definitely important.
Sorry, you caught me talking. We're on number 8. That was Kristen. Now we have Holly, Rachel, Heather, and Terese.
Children come to school in preschool or kindergarten playing. They draw, they color, they do cartwheels, they sing, they dance, they act out in plays, they want to explore everything. That's who they come to us as. I don't understand how we would do it any different. Yes, children need to, math, reading, and writing, but arts transcend that. When children feel like they can be themselves and create, learning is a lot more fun and it's a lot more effective. I've been a reading teacher for students with dyslexia and with multiple areas where they have deficits in their reading. When I sing, when I draw, when I allow them to dance and sing around their learning, this was little. As we're older, the kids rap, the kids create, they draw. That's what makes learning come alive. So I don't know how we would separate the two, but let them be themselves. That's who they come as.
Next we had Rachel, and then Heather, and then Terese.
Yes, I think that all of the arts, fine arts, industrial arts, courses are equally important to academics. I think this is really the opportunity for kids to get to experience those kind of things. You don't really get that once you're out of school, and they don't know until they've tried if something may be a passion of theirs or a path in their future. So they're very important. And there are kids who are really focused on academics, but I think just having those other options really makes a well-rounded student. And that's what the workforce and colleges are looking for, not just academics, but well-rounded students that we're launching from Red Wing schools.
I would say you can't separate the two. I have a child who loves to draw and color. I have a child that loves theater. The other one can't draw or color. She has her sister do it. So I would say that having a well-rounded kid, you can't put them in a box. The academics sometimes aren't for all kids. You want to give them that passion to go to school. And if it's the art that draws them to it, let them be. So yeah, I would say you need both.
I agree with my student. It needs to be both. It has to be both. Because a child who is excited to come to school because it's art day is going to be excited to be there all day. So, well-rounded opportunities for growth for everyone. I feel like I really lost out in high school because I was so focused on academics that I didn't take a woodshop class. I did not take a class in small gas engines, and that would have been kind of helpful as an adult. So, it has to be both.
Okay, well, I lied. We're going to have one additional question before I get to the final one, and this is a lightning round. I'm going to ask a question, and we're going to pass the mic down. And I'd like you to just say yes or not yes or no. One word. You can use one word to answer this question. In your opinion, what is the single biggest issue facing the Red Wing Public Schools today?
Staffing.
I'm going to say student discipline.
Multiple systems.
Student achievement.
Enrollment decline, sorry, 2 words.
School safety.
Mental health. That was 2 words too, sorry.
I think we had a little word inflation going on there, but we'll allow it. Okay, this is actually the last question. Please describe your understanding of what the role of a school board member is and is not. We'll start with Heather, then Kristen, and then Ben.
I would say to adhere to our policies, we help create the policies and support the superintendent and communicate with everyone. I would say that would be it.
To work collaboratively as a group, support the superintendent, support the teachers, and find ways to problem solve.
To hire the superintendent to work as advocates for the community, to review curriculum, and to generally be another mouthpiece for the community, parents, teachers, and students within the school district.
Now we'll hear from Jim, Terese, Holly, and Rachel.
School board's role is to supervise and work with the superintendent and set policy and direction as a board. Also, we're supposed to be financially responsible for the district. That's a role that the school board has. And as a superintendent, as an elected person, we should be representing the people in the school district by being visible, talking with them, because people have questions. They could email us, call us, our names and addresses are on the website, and just be a voice for our people to get our students and our community members and parents to get any answers that they may have, and be something there to help our Red Wing schools the best they can be.
Our first job is to make sure that our students are given a quality, equitable education regardless of their race, their gender, their social economic status, or their ability. So number one, support policies that support teachers so they can support kids in having the best possible future we can give them. We need to manage the finances responsibly, and with declining enrollment, that is really tough. So we have to look at what the district is spending money on and make sure that we're putting it in programs that are going to do the greatest good for all. And we need to remember that our job is not to run the school, it's to make sure the schools are well run by supporting policy that makes sure that happens.
A role of a school board member, that was pretty tricky for me when I first got on the school board. I listened to Jim quite a bit, and he said the job of the school board is to make sure that we follow policy and hire the superintendent. He's right. The job of the school board is also to be listening to the people, to the children, to the teachers, to the paraeducators, to the bus drivers. Because things are not perfect. They're not linear. They don't follow the steps. They're multifaceted. So the job of the school board is where your strengths are. If you're good at speaking, if you're good at voting, if you're good at advocating, if you're compassionate about equity, if you're compassionate for children or for adult education, you have to find your place on the school board. And like Jim said, yes, we have to adhere to policy and hire the superintendent.
First and foremost, school boards just really need to look out for the students, all the students. Education for students should be their top priority. The school board member, though, is also the voice of the community, so we need to listen. We're the voice in how your tax money is being used to achieve what is best for students, staff, and the facilities. The school board helps keep the district financially stable and serves as a support system for students and staff.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to invite the candidates to give their closing remarks. We'll start with Rachel, has to get back up, and then Holly and Heather.
If I'm elected to the school board, I will do my best to make the schools have the best possible learning environment for our children. I'll make every effort to be accessible when there's an issue that comes before the board. I will always help to make decisions based on 3 principles. The first is it in the best interest for our students? The second is it fiscally responsible? And the third is it the best course of action available based on the data that we've sought?
I would like to start out tonight thanking the school board that I've been working with for the work that we've done for the last 4 years. It's not been easy. It's not been fun at times. It's brought some of us to tears. But we've worked together, and I have never had more hope for Red Wing Public Schools than I do today. Whether or not you vote for me on November 8th, the one thing I have always been consistent about is I do it for kids. I work for the kids. I include everybody, but my votes are for all kids. And I want to thank Community Ed for doing a fantastic job in this community. 60% of our voters don't have children in the public school. That's a big number. Tonight, those of you who came out to listen to us, thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm available.
So I've been impacted by the Red Wing School District system. I have a cousin who was in special education that I grew up with that was impacted by the Red Wing School District system. I want kids to come back to Red Wing. there's too many kids that have left Red Wing. I want them to know, and the parents to know, that Red Wing School District is impacting them. So in closing, I just want to say that I appreciate and thank you guys for the support, and vote for me.
Next, we'll hear from Terese, Kristen, Jim, and Ben.
We had a tough problem here because there are 7 highly qualified people here looking to help. I think what I bring to the table is my experience as a teacher and understanding the system. As a teacher, my reputation was as a person who cares deeply about everyone. So as a school board member, I would listen, I would be informed, because we have to make data-driven decisions. I want to make sure that I understand our school finances, which is not my favorite thing, but it's probably one of the most important things, because without stable finances, we can't do anything. And I would be a tireless cheerleader for our school system and community and bring people back into school and get that support for our teachers and for our students.
Well, like I said at the beginning of this panel, I want safe schools. I want to support the kids. I want them to feel safe in our learning environments so that they can focus on the education. I want to support the superintendent. I want to support the teachers, and I want the parents to feel like they have a voice and they are more involved in their children's education.
I want to thank you for coming out on this beautiful night. Just September 15th, if I remember right. It's a great night, and you took time to come out here and listen to all us. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. They did a tremendous job. A lot of things I could say in closing. It's safe schools, and I want to make sure if I'm elected or re-elected, which I hope you vote for me, I want to have every child get the education, experience that they want. And when we can do that, if they want to come in here and learn, we have to come up with a way to get the tools to do that. I don't care who it is, each and every child. I appreciate. I think going forward, I've been contacted. I've lived in this community for many years, 60-some years, and I know a lot of people. And people come up here and ask me all the time different things. Whether it was my role as 16 years as a Goodhue County Commissioner or 4 years as a school board, people know me. They know I'm fair, reasonable, and approachable. So, and one last thing, the referendum's coming up, and that's coming up on November 8th. I like it when it's on even number of years. Everybody gets the opportunity to vote. And if the state actually paid the $3 to $4 million in cross-subsidy funding that they promised, state and federal, promised us, we probably wouldn't have to have a referendum. But please vote for the referendum and for me. Thank you.
That was tough to follow. Thank you all for coming tonight. Seriously, you are the lifeblood of the school district. You're the community. You're the ones that get to see those children grow up, become productive members of society, and it's in everyone's interest that we make sure that those children have the best opportunity possible to become those members of society. 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to become a nurse to help people right in the midst of COVID. Still don't know if it's a good or bad decision, but I did it. And it was something that I was adamant about and I was motivated for. Now, 2 years later, I'm a nurse, and I'm setting my sights on the next thing I'm passionate about, which is the school district. I've got 3 children in it. I got 3 that they benefit from me doing a good job. All of the children benefit from us doing a good job. But I'm going to definitely be motivated to find the right things that we need to do for the school district. searching out, finding how other school districts may do things, understanding that we don't always have to just take things at face value. We can be a little skeptical at times. We can ask questions, and we can go find answers that we may have just assumed were never there in the first place. So come this November, I hope all of you vote for me, and thank you so much for coming out.
All right, that brings us to the end of our forum. Before I say a few words, I hope you'll all join me in a round of applause for our candidates. I'd just like to say a particular note of thanks. I know personally how much courage and commitment it takes to just throw your hat in the ring, so thank you so much for being part of the process. I'd also like to thank the league members who work so hard to put these events on. We are in critical need of additional volunteers. If you are at all interested, and we're not just women, we have men and women who are very concerned and interested in making sure our democracy works appropriately by getting information out to the voters. So if you're interested in joining us, please come see us. We'd be happy to talk with you. I'd like to invite Tina back for some quick final remarks.
Thank you, Lisa, for leading our forum this evening. Thank you again to the candidates for participating tonight, and to our co-sponsors, Red Wing Area Chamber of Commerce, Pier 55, Red Wing Area Seniors, Citizen Climate Lobby, Resilient Red Wing, American Association of University Women, and Prairie Island Indian Community. And a big thank you to you, the voters that came to spend your evening with us. Thank you. For more than 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been a trusted source for nonpartisan voter registration and education, and a long-standing witness to Minnesota's proud tradition of voter access and election integrity. We invite you to visit our website, lwvmn.org, to learn about the statutes, best practices, and safeguards associated with Minnesota elections on our Election 411 page. Follow the link to Vote 411 for a one-stop shop for all your election needs, personalized to you, including a voter's guide. We hope all our candidates here tonight have submitted their information to the voter guide. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization focused on grassroots voter education. We encourage active and informed participation in government and do not endorse candidates for office or political parties. The opinions expressed tonight are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. If you are interested in learning more about the League, please stop by our information table. The forum this evening is being recorded by LWV for later broadcast. The recordings will be made available on local cable channels, the League Facebook page, our website, YouTube, and vote411.org. Vote411.org is a voter guide where you can check your voter registration, find information about your ballot and the candidates. Remember that early voting starts tomorrow, September 23rd. If you haven't registered to vote or requested an absentee ballot and would like to do so, please stop by our table.